Welcome to Dad Talk Today. The podcast for dads facing some of the toughest moments of their lives. We are here to walk with men through divorce, keep them connected to their kids, help them understand their rights, and work for change in family law courts. Moms, you are always welcome too. We are all about advocating for shared parenting and doing what is best for our kids. Here is your host, Eric Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Dad Talk Today. It is Thanksgiving 2020, and what a year to be celebrating a holiday, right? 2020 has had to be one of the craziest years that I've experienced in my 36 years of being on this world. I've talked to a lot of the veterans. They say the same thing, but you know what? It's still the holidays. It's time to be with family. It's time to be with those that matter, and unfortunately, a lot of these people won't be gave that chance. We live in a community where parental alienation is running wild. And for those of you that are not aware of parental alienation, maybe you're inside or you have followed the page or the YouTube and you're not so sure what that is. That's when one parent is kept away from a child, not because they're not fit, not because they don't know how to take care of them, but because one parent wants that control. They feel threatened by that other parent. And, I wish I could tell you that it was a rare thing. When I very first started this, I thought it was a rare occurrence. It's not, guys. It happens so much. And that's why we wanted to do this broadcast. There might be some people that don't live in state with their family. They've been going through family court. They don't have the money to travel. They don't have it. And the holidays is not the greatest time for them. Well, guess what? Now you get to celebrate your holiday with Dad Talk Today. And mom, dad, whoever it is on the other side of that screen, if you're listening to this instead of being at Thanksgiving with your family, I'm glad you're here. You are important, you matter, and you are so vital to your child's life. Maybe you're not being gave the chance right now, but you will be gave the chance. It's about hanging in there. It's about persevering. Now, on through the day, what you're going to see, I have invited many different parents on here. They're not going to put their full names. We're not going to put their kids' names out there, but they're going to come on here and tell you what it's been like for them. They're people that have been experiencing parental alienation. They've been victims of family court. They're going to tell you what it was like for them not being able to see their children and what they have done to make it through. And I think it's important that people hear about this because I know what it was like when I very first started going through it. I had no idea what was going on. And the resources was very little. I went to a therapist. That definitely helped. Some of these people are scared to go to therapists and talk about their cases, and rightfully so. We've seen many times where therapists have been subpoenaed in court and they get those records, and this is a person you thought you could pour your heart out to, and now you're finding it being used against you. And that's just so unfair. So that's what we're going to do today. Allow us to come in your homes and speak to you in this it's supposed to be a wonderful time of year, but 2020 COVID-19, we know. I got calls last night. I found out many fathers were being kept away from their children. The false temporary restraining orders were coming in. And it comes with the territory. It happens. It's coming. We knew it was coming. And that's why we want to do stuff like this. If you will stick around, we will be right back. I'm going to bring up our first caller, and we will be right back. At this time, I'd like to bring our first guest on the show. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, John, how you doing this Thanksgiving, man?
I'm all right. How about you?
I'm doing all right, man. So tell us a little bit. I don't know, is it parental alienation you've experienced, child custody issues, family court? Tell us a little bit about what it is you've experienced.
Yeah, it's all of that. About a little bit over 3 years ago, my ex-wife and I separated, and from pretty much from that point on, the kids have been separated from me. We had a very close relationship, a normal, healthy bond before that, and currently, I haven't seen the kids in 2.5 months. Look, in spite of a court order, in spite of some pretty hefty court order to try and get me involved in the kids' lives.
Right. How has that been for you, man? 2.5 months and not seeing your kids. How long or how old were they before this started going down?
They were 4 and 5 when we separated.
4 and 5. So 4 and 5 years that you was in your children's life. Now it's been 2.5 months. I mean, what's that been like for you mentally?
It's really, and actually it's been 3 years. There was one point of 9 months of no contact, 6 months. It just comes and goes with the whims of whoever is strongest out there, I think. But the way I feel misunderstood, and I feel not important, undervalued as a father. Just that I don't necessarily mean much to the people that look at me that are in decision making power.
How does that feel to know that there is a system? There's a system, John. We should be able to go to them for justice if there's something going on. There's false allegations. There's parental alienation. It's not like it's hard to spot. You would think that these courts would be very well educated on it by now, and they would protect your right as a parent to be in your child's life. We know most of the time that's not what's happening, and they're going through situations like you. Do you have any faith in the court system as it is right now?
No.
And that's
No.
sad. That's
Yeah.
sad because I don't either. I'll be honest with you, I don't either. And it sounds like, I guess you've been going through this a couple of years, but what are some of the things that you've done to try to keep yourself going and keep your mind off of this?
I've stayed busy with side jobs, a lot of extras that I normally wouldn't do. I try to find something every week to get my mind off things, and I've really worked on cultivating healthy relationships in my life. In some ways, my family is very supportive, so much that they've done, but they haven't been through this, and they don't understand necessarily. And sometimes it feels like they are even not there for me.
Right. And that's a hard thing. We talk about that. That's a very, very common thing for somebody that's going through alienation, that's been through family court. You want to tell somebody, especially family, they want to know what's going on. Why aren't the kids around? And they don't get it because they haven't been through it. And for people that haven't been through it, it seems a little far-fetched in a way with parental alienation, but they just look how easy it was to get your kids to believe in Santa Claus. I mean, you got this custodial parent that's sitting there, and that's who the kid looks up to because that's the parent that they're with every day. And when they're not seeing the other parent, it's so easy for them to tell them whatever, and kids believe it because they want to believe their parents. All right, so John, what I would like you to do is next time you are telling your story to them, instead of saying, hey, this is what I'm going through, tell them, imagine you spent so much money in family court. You spent all these years. You get this judgment against you. You're not seeing your kids, and it forces them to walk a mile in your shoes. I've seen that very effective. And it's hard. It's hard explaining this to somebody that's never been through it.
That's
It is.
true.
And that's why I think things like what we're doing right now is important, because I'm sure you've got a lot of details about your case that are completely different than mine.
Absolutely.
If there is some parents out there right now that's going through parental alienation, they're just now experiencing this, they're not sure what's going on, it's Thanksgiving, they're watching us instead of being with their family, what's some advice you could give to them, man?
I think what I'd say is just keep your mind busy. Try and look for a close friend, or you might need to develop new friendships. It can go so many different ways, but just be prepared for some very hard times. And I don't want to be really gloomy about anything, but honestly, if you get into this point where you're relying on a court system and other people, they have jobs, full-time jobs, they see this every day, but neither do they necessarily care. So you have to look out for you and yourself.
That's right, man. I really appreciate that. There's something you hit on. I want to tap into it a little bit more. You said be careful who you're hanging out with, basically your friends, and who you are surrounding yourself with. What's the importance in that, and why would you say that advice?
There are some people that will, for one, they may have kids and they may see their relationship with their kids. They may not at all understand, and they may in turn end up judging you for whatever it is that may have led to the situation you're in. And obviously, it goes both ways, but you just have to be really careful and pick some positive and uplifting people that will be there for you.
I agree with that, and I really thank you for that. Did you know what parental alienation was before you started going through it?
I did not, but there were some I honestly didn't know, but I started looking into it right away and I researched it. And before all of this started happening, I had some maybe red flags that kind of were dripped, some breadcrumbs, and kind of started realizing some things could happen. And no, I did not know what parental alienation was.
You said you saw some red flags. Could you mention some of those for me?
Yeah, if I can carefully, there were just some comments like children um, possession is this is one comment. Possession is 90% of the law. So if one parent or the other has the kids, that's the way it will stick, is kind of what was said to me, and amongst a few other things, but it was that sentiment.
Right. How is the communication between you and your ex? Is it something that you can talk to, or is just not happening?
I would absolutely love to talk to her about the well-being of the children, but communication is non-existent.
In the relationship, how was her relationship with your family?
Um, it was interesting. It was strained, and it brought my relationship with my family to be strained, to be somewhat in times non-existent, and to be have some difficulties there in that relationship with my family.
It's important, man. Those are some of the biggest red flags that you can ever see inside of a relationship. I didn't realize it until I was going through it. I very much had my brother living right beside me, my sister living right beside me, my mom. We all lived kind of like in this close knit community. That's the way my dad wanted it. And he died about 8 years ago. And when I got in this relationship before I started getting alienated, we have such a close family. Next thing I know, there was a wedge being drove between me and my mom, somebody that I've never had a wedge drove between, my brother, my sister, my kids. And now I understand it better. If they will try to alienate you from your own family, they will definitely do it with your kids. And I think that's a way of anybody that has any influence in your life, making sure they separate you, because that's how they can get control of you. That's how the manipulation works. It's not so easy to see that when you're in the relationship. It's you're in love with somebody, you're trusting them, and that was interesting. That's why I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. But um, do you do anything for your kids, man, in this time that you're not being able to see them? Are you writing them a little journal or making them videos, letting them know, hey, I love you. I wanted to see you. I didn't get to. I'm curious, is there anything like that going on?
Yeah, at first I was really excited about doing things like journaling and keeping in contact with them through gifts, birthday gifts, and Christmas gifts. But those gifts were all sent back to me. And then the journaling, at one point, it got so bad that I just didn't have heart to do that anymore. But lately, what I've been doing is I know where they're going to school. I have a relationship with their teachers. I'm in contact with them that way. And every now and then I leave them just some really small, minute gifts that they can either put in their backpacks at school and keep at school, or maybe a snack and a card, something that they don't necessarily have to take home and talk to mom about, something they can just keep there at school or in their backpacks, and it's kind of a little thing that keeps me in contact with them, hopefully.
Now, I've experienced that as well, and I know that we haven't quite got there. That'll be next month, or birthdays and stuff. But you mentioned something that's very common as well, getting them gifts, and they won't even let them have the gifts. They don't want them to know there's any bit of caring from you towards your children. They don't want them to receive anything. What was it like for you the first time that happened?
I was shocked, and I was once again kind of like not excited about it, but just realizing that I can document this and I can show it to my attorney and we can show it to the court, and surely it will be important for the court. And it kind of was. It was probably something that helped my case and did not help her.
I mean, it's things like that any judge, any attorney should be able to take a look at and know something's going on here. Something's not right. This isn't a normal relationship. And I'm sorry to hear about that. But, man, it seems like you got your head on your shoulders. I'm sorry you're going through this. And I appreciate you coming on and telling everybody. Is there anything else you would like to leave? There's some parent there that's, this is their first Thanksgiving, not being able to see their children. Is there anything you'd like to leave them with?
Just reiterate what I said is you have to keep your head up for your children. It's for them. It's all about the children now. And in order to do that, you have to remain healthy as much as you can. I know I didn't remain healthy all the time. You probably won't either, but just do your best to realize that it's up to you to get back into your children's lives, because for the most part, the system won't do much to help you. Even people we would tend to rely on, like therapists, they more than likely won't help you. And it's a very difficult battle, but you can do it and keep going.
Hey, brother, I sure do appreciate you coming on here and sharing a little bit of your heart on your holiday with everybody. And I hope everything goes well for you, my man.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, Eric, and thanks for all you do.
All right, everybody. I want to welcome our next caller onto the podcast, Claudia. Claudia, how you doing this Thanksgiving?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So, Claudia, I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. So, Claudia, tell us a little bit about what it is that you've been going through. Is it child custody, parental alienation?
It's both. One led to the other, but it involved two sons, a few years apart. So my older son, very impacted by parental alienation, no longer refers to me as mom, calls me by my first name, and I've been denied any type of participation in anything he does. And I think that's how he feels that I've rejected him when I've reached out. So I try to do that with him. It might be monthly, just asking a question. How are you? I hope you're well. If you need anything, let me know. And I just do that, but I don't expect anything. So I've learned to kind of step back a little bit and just do my part. I still send gifts. I still send cards. So do my parents, but we don't get any responses. As for our young son, there's still hope there. So I will get an occasional call. It might be a minute or two. I understand he's under a lot of pressure, but there's still hope. There's still love. And I look forward to that, because there can be instances where I could send a good morning, not expecting anything, and I'll get a good morning back. And it's a bit of surprise, but it really makes your day when you get those types of things. But again, I keep going, I keep moving forward, and I do the best that I can, especially during these times.
How long is it that you've been going through this?
With my older son, let's see, he's in his early 20s. So I would say since he was about 14. And then it started with our young son about the same age, and he's about 16 and a half. So it's kind of the same age area. And at first I didn't know what this was. And so over time I've researched it and I've learned from other parents and I identified it and just kind of work on things that could help me cope, but also things that could help me kind of get through. So I've just learned a lot about this and not to give up, definitely not going to do that. And how to manage, what I can do myself, what I can control, and how to get through some of these tough times that we have, especially the holidays.
Holidays are definitely rough. I know what it's like. It's been 2 years for me, but you mentioned something that kind of, I think we ought to touch on a little bit. You was mentioning how you have a little bit more hope with your younger child. I've always said alienation, and I don't know what it's like for parents going through this, but I've seen it. Alienation for older children, once they've been fed this for so long, the hopes of them waking up and realizing it just becomes slimmer and slimmer. And, whereas younger children, it seems like you have so much more of a greater chance. I'm curious, why do you think it might be a little bit different for your younger one versus your older one?
Because I think my young one lived with me his whole life until the retainment or the denial of access started. The older one, it was more of agreeing to go let him live with dad, and a little bit over time, I started to pick up on these behaviors, these things that were going on. And I think with our young son, he knew from the start what our relationship was like. And so I know that there's that hope, because he still reaches out. He will still say, I love you. He will, he'll still engage in some conversations, even though they're very brief. So I just know that hope is there.
Right.
And that's what I hold on to.
Gotcha. What is communication with your ex like? Does he communicate with you at all?
We have to use one of those parenting apps, but I try not to engage a lot, because then it kind of never ends positively. So I try to refrain from that and just make it about the child at this point, and just minimize that as much as I can, because it can be emotional at times, knowing that they're the person that is responsible for this, and they have full access to them, and you don't. So you try to make it as positive as you possibly can.
So for somebody that's never went through this, they might not understand it, but trying to communicate with somebody like this about your child, you just want to know, when can I see my child? How are they doing? It's never about the child. There's some
Correct.
type of argument. There's some type of gaslighting that's going to go in there. I know what that's like, right? When can I see my child? You get something this long.
Absolutely.
I
I
mean,
ask a simple question and I get like a story timeline, and that they never even address the question. So I've learned not to engage, not to incite anything, just make it really brief and short. That's it.
that's it. And that makes them even madder when you don't engage, because that's what they want. And
Yeah.
if not, you can just stay silent. They don't mind that either. If they don't get that control, that's the hard thing. And I think that's important for somebody that's just now going through alienation. Holidays are going to be a time that you think you should be with your children, because you should, and you might not get that. And you're going to want to be angry, and you're righteously angry. You've got a reason to be, but please don't. Please don't, because that can and will be used against you. Claudia, I'm curious, has there ever been any time where there was some gaslighting to get some type of reaction against you, and then that reaction was used against you later on?
Yes, it was about me asking for to attend a graduation. I was offered tickets to a graduation, and then it gets turned around. Well, it's left up to the child to decide. That's between you and the child. And even though I was offered in advance by the parent, well, you have to work it out with him, knowing full well that child is not communicating, and there is no encouragement, there is no help. And so it just gets spun around. Like, if you're the problem, that you need to fix this. And it's just hurtful. So you've kind of learned how to, again, minimize the communication and make it just about the child when it needs to be.
And that is great advice, and that's all you can do, and make sure that you keep documents of that. I don't know, I've never had to use it. How do you feel about the parenting apps? I would think, since it keeps a log of that communication and shows where you tried and you got everything but the answer you was looking for, that would be helpful. Has that been the case for you?
It has, because that what was used. There's also where you can get a download, like a history of the certain child, so that you can see for yourself if they have in fact mentioned anything about the child, whether it's doctor's appointments, how they're doing, just things like that, and so that has been helpful.
You talk about being called by your first name and not by mom anymore. How did that come about? How does that make you feel?
It was done by text, and it was really it was a horrible feeling, because I try so much, but you don't get any help from the other parent. You can't get through to the child, and they won't answer your calls. They won't allow you to attend certain events. Um, I would ask my child for pictures. Ask my father. Well, I can't ask your father because he won't send them. So I'm trying here, but when you get a response that calls you by the first name, it's just I never thought it would get to that, and it's just really hurtful, because you're doing the best that you can as an alienated parent, and I hope one day he'll realize that. But I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still his mom. That will never be taken away from me. That's just the way that I feel. That's something that I will always be a mom. It's just hard right now, not being able to be a physical, active parent.
It definitely is, and this is one of those battles. I think people think they're going to come into it when they start experiencing it, and somebody's going to see what's happening. I'm going to get immediate results. Somebody's going to say, the judge is going to say, "Oh, that can't happen anymore." And unfortunately, a lot of times that's not the case. We've got people that have been going through this decades and still haven't seen their children. So realize just how much of a battle this is, and how long it will go on. Parents like Claudia and me, there's many of us, and being able to keep your head focused and not let the alienation get to you, that's a hard thing to do. There's nothing worse to be used against you in this life than your own flesh and blood and your child, and to have them speaking back to you like this when you're doing everything to be in their life. I know I just got through talking to the caller a few minutes ago. We was talking about making a diary or a journal or something like that, so they can give to the kids later to show them what they did, and that they were thinking about them on holidays, these holidays that they're not getting to see them. Your kids are a little bit older. I'm curious, is there anything that you're doing to document what this struggle's been like for you, so one day when they come back and say, "Mom, what happened?" Because I believe there's going to be a day they're going to say, "You know what? I might have bad feelings, but I just got to know the answers," and they're going to come to you. Do you have something to give to them?
I do. And for my older son, in his gifts, I send him photos of when he was a child, little mementos of photos. And I also created an email account, and I addressed it, made it a really good email address. And I send messages to that email account. And one day I'll give them the password, and that way they'll have access to all these emails that I wrote to them. And it may have been at a time where I was at my low, that I just missed them when this started. And it may be, a current email just to ask how they're doing. I hope they're doing really well in school and, reaching their goals and things like that. I just want the best for them. So I've created that as a documentation for them.
Gotcha. Well, Claudia, I thank you so much for coming on here. If there's any parent right now that's going through alienation, this is their first holiday going through this, maybe it's their second, their third, and they're really upset. They're not getting to see their children. It got them blindsided. COVID-19, this year, 2020, craziest year of my life. COVID-19's here. And we know that's going to be probably the number one excuse used. It's like the number one present to the alienator. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of moms and dads going through these situations. for those that are going through it right now and they don't know what to think about this or how to get through, what's some advice you could give to them?
I would suggest I've definitely not spend it alone. I find a lot of peace when I either take a walk or I take a hike or, get outdoors. And if you can't meet with someone, just give someone a call, things like that, whether it's family or friends. But, just definitely don't go the holiday without any contact with anyone, because you need that, and that's okay to need that. And to me, that helps me. But I try to get outdoors and do something outside, regardless of the weather, just to have some sense of peace. So, and I wish them all well. I really do. And you're not alone.
That's right. Claudia, thank you so much for coming and sharing a little bit of your heart with us this Thanksgiving.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. We are back. Thank you for joining us today. This is Thanksgiving 2020. I am on the phone with Matt. Matt, what's going on, my man?
Hi. I'm doing well. I'm gonna have Thanksgiving with my side of the family tomorrow, and doing well. Thanks.
So what is it that you've been experiencing, Matt? Is it parental alienation, custody issues, false allegations?
Well, I mean, there's so much to get into there. Right now, I'm doing well. I thought we might talk about maybe what it was like at the beginning of the process for me that was really painful. But the short version is, yeah, I've been accused of being mentally unstable and, while not technically a criminal, guilty of criminal thinking, that I abandoned my emotional abuse, that I abandoned my disciplinary responsibilities, and that I abandoned my nurturing responsibilities as a father. And because of that, the children's rejection of me was natural. And all of those were used as a pretense to keep me away from my children. I now have the court came to the conclusion that those were not true. And the court concluded that parental alienation was happening as a finding of fact. So it's not liable for me to say that. But it took me 2 years to get there. And my older daughters were old enough that it wasn't really particularly safe to have them around anymore. And now the court gave me the youngest primary. Mom moved away, and somebody had to have the child primary physical, and the court said unless she moved back, it would be me. And so I've got a relationship with my youngest, and I haven't talked to my older two in almost 2 years.
Yes, I mean, and that's a little bit of a different situation. Most of the time people are kept away from all of your kids, but those situations happen too. I'm curious, man, when you very first started going through this, did you know what parental alienation was before you started going through it?
Well, my situation is a little bit different because I'm Catholic and tried to hold on to the marriage a lot longer than most people in America would. So it happened while we were living in the same house. You're right. At the very beginning, it was, why are you being so mean? Why are you being so mean in front of the children? I've overheard what you're saying in front of the children. Stop saying that. And then it was, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're eavesdropping on me. Bah, 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 bah. Like, it was always flipped around and we could never get back to the, and like, we had a bunch of parenting books on the shelf, and she wouldn't support me in front of the kids. In fact, she would say that whatever I was doing was wrong in front of the implicitly endorsing their rebellion as early teenagers. And why are you doing that? And she's, well, if I take over and tell the kids to listen to you, I'm cutting your legs off from under you. And I won't do that, was what she said. And that's not what any parent, like, I know she read all the parenting books. So something happened when the third child was born, where the girl that I knew, she was gone. And she never came back. And we'd always had a difficult marriage, but it was that transition point with the birth of the last one that really, I kind of want to say, oh, she's a narcissist. I don't know, man. I'm not a psychologist, but I never saw any affection or benefit of the doubt or any positive, supportive relationship things after that point. It was like a switch, and we'd always struggled. It was always bad, but we always had our moments, and she allowed me to love the children and allowed them to love me until that point. And then I tried to hang on. You say it's postpartum depression. It's understandable. It's really difficult with a baby. Women are the first year or so after the baby is born, they're not getting any sleep. They're cranky. So I delayed. So it happened inside the marriage, and I didn't know it was happening at first. Yeah.
I get it, man. That actually sounds a lot like, one of my marriages. I stayed in there. I tried no matter what was done, multiple affairs. I stayed in. I wanted to keep it going. And that can be really hard. I wasn't Catholic, but my father was a pastor. So, and I watched the struggles that him and my mom went through, but they always stayed together and they always made it work. And I mean, that's something that's really important that somebody else might be going through. Maybe somebody's not experiencing parental alienation right now, but they're going through a bad time in their marriage. What was that like for you, trying to hold on to something, even though it felt like there was nothing there to hold on to?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had friends tell me, I don't know what you're trying to hold on to. My mother-in-law called me and said, what you have is not a marriage, and you need to do something. And I didn't what do you want me to, I don't know. And what I say is that a lot of people don't understand, and we overuse this word abuse to the point it's like, oh yeah, you're verbally abused, da, da, da. But when you start thinking about maybe not being alive anymore, when that idea comes, what would it be like if I wasn't here?
Yep.
And you present that to your partner, and they say they blame you, and they're angry with you, and they make you feel bad about yourself. So I'm still Catholic, and Catholics are allowed to separate. They're allowed to live separate. You just can't pursue another relationship. And if you're talking about your own mental health, most states have a separate but not divorced legal thing you can try to do. And eventually that was what I pursued.
Right.
My priest talked me out of it, and then she spent about this is my opinion now.
Right.
Spent about the next 6 months separating me from the kids and setting me up for the very same abuse charges that she would charge when she filed for divorce. That's and that's what it looks like to me.
Right. I'm sorry you're going through that, man. That's I put the saying, and I got the same thing. What are you holding on for? You should have left a long time ago. I wanted to make sure that if my kids ever came back to me later and said, Daddy, what happened? I could look at them and say, I did everything I could do.
Well, it's interesting. It's a real double bind, right? Because if you leave, then you abandon them, and you're terrible. And I knew that would be. I'd accuse with that. And then if you stay, the time for me to leave was when, even though I was staying, I was losing the kids anyway. And when I became consciously aware of that, and that's what I blame myself for. When I realized, I should have realized about a year earlier, if I stay, it's just going to lose the kids anyway. The other interesting thing I would add is that I started to see a therapist. When you start having these thoughts, I went to get help, and she wouldn't go to marital counseling, so I went by myself, and he worked with me on boundaries, and that just blew things up really fast. That just completely dissolved, because when she couldn't boss me around, couldn't control me anymore, when I wasn't afraid of her anger, when she would insult me, so I would just leave the table, and if she followed me, I'd leave the house. Everything every book says about boundaries. But then she went after my relationship with the kids, and I tolerated that for way too long. That was a mistake.
Well, there comes a point, you've got to communicate, and you got to be open to self-criticism, but there can be a point in time, especially in these marriages, when one person's trying and the other is doing everything they can to get out of it, that you can be too critical of yourself, because you're constantly trying to find out, well, why are they not receptive in me? Why are they doing this? So you're very compassionate about their feelings, and they can give a crap less about you. There's got to be some time that there's some self-love that comes in there and says, you know what, I'm worth more than this. And I'm going to make sure, if they're going to play those games, I'm going to let them play them, but I'm not going to drag myself down while they're doing it.
Yeah, we could shit all over ourselves. I should have done this and I should have done that.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, you trusted someone for too long. Yeah, but you swore an oath in a church to look out for each other's back, and then what they told you is you're the problem, so you believe them. Yeah, it's a mistake, but it's understandable.
Okay. I get it, man. Going back to the kids, I mean, not being able to see your kids. So I'm sure you're no stranger to having holidays coming up, not being able to see your kids.
Yeah, the first holiday, yeah, she took the kids away and it really bothers me because I spent Christmas. My hope was that they would still come down the stairs on Christmas morning, and they went to the in-laws. And her story was she needed to think about our future. She took the kids, so I was at home on Christmas all alone. I binge watched Supergirl, I think, which would have been a great show to watch with the older girls at that point, but it just wasn't possible. And I went to church, and the deacon said, "I'm so glad. I know you're going through a lot of stuff. I'm so glad you're here." Like, I got nowhere else to go, man. My family is 1,000 miles away, and I didn't make any plans. But that started happening, during the marriage, before anybody filed for anything, when we were still living in the same house. It's funny. You can hear my daughter on the piano, right?
Yeah.
I think they're totally engaged. They can't hear us.
Oh, that's okay, man.
Yeah. But I don't know. I can't remember what your question was exactly. But yeah, and it's when the toughest part for me was between, she said, "You'll never see the kids without a custody order," and then she moved out. And it took us about a month to get the custody order, and then maybe 6 weeks. And I said stuff. She said stuff like, "I need the title to the car," because she wanted to sell her car and buy a new one. And I was like, "I'd like to see the kids first." And that was, I had something she wanted.
Right.
And of course the older two were rejecting me at that point, but it wasn't as bad as it would eventually get. Can we visit something? Can I see the kids? Let's talk about that first, resolve that, and then you can have your title. And she nope, she gave up on the title. And then I gave up on the so during that time, I remember, because I would see a father walking with his daughter, holding hands, about the right ages, and I would cry just driving down the road. I would pass a playground and I would cry. It was so incredibly difficult. And in that time, what I would say is, in that time, and this is about 2.5 years ago, I could not recognize that no matter what, it was going to get better.
Right.
And it's terrible, because if you don't see them, and eventually you kind of give up and you kind of sear your conscience to it, and you feel guilty for doing that, but you are able to feel better. It does, it fits and starts, and you wake up one morning, you're like, "Hey, I haven't felt guilty or terrible or sad or mentally unhealthy for like 3 hours. This is great." Especially, I got lost in the gym, lifting weights, or I got lost in the moment, and I forgot about my problems for a minute. And I think that's why some people drink so much. Just forget about it for one night. But you can do that and be sober. Then what starts to happen in my experience is that the good moments become longer and better, and the bad moments become shorter and less eventually. But you still have that guilt. Like, the reason I'm doing this is because I stopped worrying about the fact that I miss the older kids.
Right. Brother, I thank you so much for, sharing that. And, if there is a father or mother at home right now, and this is their first time experiencing this, and they're not quite sure what to make out of it, they're hearing all these different things, that they're not going to win in court, or that it's going to take years, in which a lot of times it can take years.
Sometimes it does.
It does, what would you say to them right now while they're sitting there this Thanksgiving, and they're just all down and out, and they're letting this situation just completely rule their life? What can you say to them?
Right. Yeah. That's a great, the mindfulness literature is full of a bunch of ideas to kind of get out of your head and into the moment. And there's some weird stuff there. There's some new age stuff there, but for the most part, if you can, what did you used to do back when you were healthy that just gave you a moment's pleasure? Was it go for a drive with the windows down? Was it listen to rock out to silly music and dance ridiculously? Like, what did you used to ski? What did you do? And then find a way to do that and just forget about it for a minute, and bring yourself into and a lot of that is touch, sight. Bring yourself into the present moment. And you might be surprised how much freedom you have. Like, yes, someone wants you to be unhappy. I took a psychological test and it said someone has it out for me, and I said yes. And basically the court has come to the conclusion that that statement was true, but it was evaluated that I was paranoid because they didn't look at it in the context of trauma. So when you're in that, someone's got it out for this terrible, and I'm going to go broke. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, you've got three square meals and clean sheets and a warm house and a roof that doesn't leak. If you've got that, man, nothing can find a way to get out of the problem and into the moment, probably into your body moving, and you'll find that your life can be better, or you have a significant control over whether your life is better or worse. I read a lot of Stoicism. So there's a book called The Philosophical Fighter Pilot, and it was about a Navy pilot who was shot down over Vietnam, was put in the Hanoi Hilton, and he was in a prisoner of war camp for 5 years. He was in solitary confinement for 3 of those years. He was in leg irons, so he couldn't move his legs leg irons is like you're shackled, right, to a wall or whatever, for 18 months. He was tortured 15 times, and he got through it. There's another book, Man's Search for Meaning. The guy survived the Holocaust, concentration camp, Nazi Germany, right? I know it's terrible and you're sad, but these guys found a way through it, and you can read their stories, get their stories for free at the library. Read their stories, work through it, and figure out how, at the very least, survive for your kids, thrive for your kids. If your kids see you happy and thriving, it's one of the best witnesses you can that the story isn't quite true that they heard. If they see you, sad and crying and broke and you're living in a shelter because you couldn't find the energy to go to work, that doesn't really do a lot to defeat the story that's going on in their head.
Right. I'll tell you what, Matt, thank you so much for coming, man, and sharing a little bit of your heart with these guys and everybody. I hope that, let you know, Matt brung up a really good point. A lot of people have tried to drink it away. I'm not going to tell you that alcohol won't take away some of your problems for the night, but you wake up the next day and you got to face them again. Get in there, do something healthy, take care of yourself and just have a good holiday. I know it's on your mind, but Matt, thank you for coming, my man, and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really respect what you do for the community and hope to learn more about you and see if we can work together in the future. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. All right, guys. If you'll hang around, I'm going to bring in the next caller. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I got our next caller on the line. I've got Brandon on here with us this Thanksgiving. Brandon, what's going on, my man?
Hey, well, I'm actually went on vacation with my wife, just the two of us, because of all this stuff. We haven't been able to get away from, the chaos. They just got me back into the court and took my kids. I haven't seen them since July, but I went to the court, and all this stuff. It's just typical. It wasn't anything that I didn't know was going to happen, but here I haven't seen them, and then the judge takes them away, as if I'm the bad guy. But the last caller, his name was Matt. What was his last name?
Yes. I can give it to you offline, man. We're keeping everybody's last names off of here just to make sure,
Oh, okay.
Nothing gets tried to, nobody tries to use it against them, man.
No, that's cool. Well, I don't care. I mean, I'm on Facebook. I'm live. I'm vocal. It doesn't matter to me. No, what I was going to say about Matt, he brought up a good point. You have to take care of yourself. And that's kind of what I'm doing this weekend, over the rest of the week with my wife. my mom was supposed to go out of town, and as my dad, he's got stuff going on. Everybody's got stuff going on. Then you got the COVID thing, so it's just um, disrupted normal Thanksgiving stuff. So we just came out of town and to kind of get away and get a fresh perspective,
Right.
and to kind of get recharged, because like what Matt said, I've read Man's Search for Meaning, but what I have found is a lot of people get bogged down in this stuff, and it steals their energy, and then it just they let these courts just ruin their lives. They're going to take your kids if they're going to take your kids anyways. And I've just found that you do have, for me, I had to find a higher purpose in all of this, and to try to get something out of it and not let it just destroy my life. And I thought it was kind of interesting that this guy, Matt, I caught the tail end of what he was saying, but that's a very important aspect
It definitely is. And Brandon,
there.
oh, okay. I
Yes.
said, you remember, you mentioned that you just started going through this around June.
Yeah, July.
Let's see.
But yeah, this is the first time I've been held to the minimum standard, which I think is a lot of people get upset in this stuff about, oh, the parent is not following the court order. I think it's bigger than that. I've been mandated to the minimum order for over 3-4 years now. And to me, even if you're being held to that order, if you're only getting 4 days a month, 2 hours a week, that still contributes to a parental alienation.
Right. Oh, it definitely does. I mean, anytime that one parent's got the majority of the time and they can make sure they get this control and they can tell that story, it definitely hurts the non-custodial parent that's not being able to show their presence 100%.
No, it does. When you limit that time and access, and they know, look, these courts know exactly what they're doing. And so I've tried to take my focus off of even the mother. She's doing what the court allows and what the system encourages.
Right.
So, I mean, as far as me, I've tried to kind of get away from, I mean, yeah, it hurts. I wake up every morning and it reminds me of, I've been divorced now for like 10 years or so, 9 or 10 years, or separated. And because it happened about a year after my daughter turned 1. And so, yeah, I've been dealing with it, and she's about to be 10. So I've been dealing with this almost going on 9 years. And so it kind of reminds me back, and it's very traumatic, these things.
I said it definitely is. And I was just curious. You were saying earlier that you've got plans this holiday to be with family and friends. How does that help with the alienation? Does it help you keep your mind off of it? And tell people the importance of surrounding yourself with good friends and good family in these trying times.
Well, like I say, this weekend, because of the COVID stuff, and I think this is an interesting thing with COVID.
Oh yeah.
It's just my wife and I. It's just me and my wife. That's it. We came to Colorado. We're in a little cabin. We're going to go do some hiking and stuff, and go see some, different things, and just kind of get away. So we're not necessarily going to be with other family. We went and saw some family, but before we left. But
Right.
I think even with the COVID, they want to drive a wedge. When I say they, I mean, I don't want to get into conspiracy talk and things like that, but I think it's just very interesting with those of us who've gone through this, that they want to divide people from family, because that is what strengthens people, is family. When they have family and friends, but friends come and go. Family lasts forever. I mean, your blood you're connected by blood. And you know, kids, they know this stuff. I mean, children are going to naturally long for their biological parents.
Right.
Unless they've been alienated and bought into it. And so I mean, I just think it's an interesting correlation that if you haven't been through this, you're not going to necessarily pick up on.
Absolutely. Brandon,
But,
I
I
appreciate.
mean, I do draw strength from, you know, we all do, from interpersonal connections with other people.
Right. Brandon, I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your heart and a little bit of your story. I'm going to have you back later on to talk a little bit more about this. But before I let you go, if there's somebody out there that's experiencing parental alienation, this is their first year, what is some advice that you could give them right now to make sure that they're keeping themselves healthy and focused and not letting this control their life this holiday season?
If you do have other family and friends, you know, surround yourself with them. I would say that for number one. And you really have to just, you know, love yourself, learn to love yourself. And, you know, that's the number one thing I would say is just know that you're important, you know, that your life matters. You know, regardless of the struggles you're going through, not being able to see your children, we can only control what we can control. And just, you know, with all of these, anybody who's gone through any type of trauma and anybody who's, you know, there's a basic set of a philosophy that says you can only control yourself, you know. And so you have to really, I feel like you have to use this experience to get to know yourself, you know, and that's something that a lot of people just don't do. You know, we're not taught how to do that. We're not taught how to love ourselves. And, you know, we're always taught, oh, you know, do for other people. And, you know, you need to be thankful that you're just alive. You know, too many people get down around the holidays. And that's all I could say. I know it doesn't seem like it's tied to the holidays, but it really is, you know, because this is when you really have to do that.
Gotcha. Well, brother, again, I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a good holiday with your wife and your family. And I'll definitely get you back on here a little bit later on and keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Hey, you do the same. Thanks for doing what you do, brother.
All right. You got it. Thanks, Brandon. All right, everybody. At this time, I'd like to welcome on our next caller, Caitlyn. Caitlyn, how you doing this Thanksgiving?
Well, I'm in Canada, so we already had Thanksgiving.
Oh, when is the Thanksgiving in Canada?
What was it, 3 weeks ago?
Really?
Yeah. Doesn't mean I'm not going to cook another turkey.
So is it turkey that you guys eat up there for Thanksgiving too?
Well, what else would it be?
I mean, you never know.
Canada goose?
Well, yeah. But tell us a little bit, you know, I know the Canadian family law courts are very much like the Americas. But tell us a little.
They don't really do anything. So from what I've gathered, it's very similar.
Yes. You know, I know here in the States, we got the Title 4D, which gives the incentives on the child support, which fuels a lot of this. Is there anything similar to that in Canada that is really like providing an incentive for the government to fuel the destruction of these families?
I'm not familiar with it in that sense, because when we split up, that was 9.5 years ago. It's been 50-50, so Sunday to Sunday ever since. So there was never any spousal support, child support, anything like that, because there was just no need to get into all that. Now, the last time I saw my boys was August 27th, 2017. And now his last application to court was for child support from me. So I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot about this coming in January. But as of now, I'm not very familiar with it.
So what's got us into this? I don't want to talk too much about the legal aspects of this, but
Mm.
when did you started seeing something was going on, and what caused that separation from you not being able to see your children?
I mean, now, this long after, I see that it was going on a lot longer than 3.5 years ago. And it was just
Okay.
comments kids would make, and they were only young. So it's not comments that would come out of a child's mouth the way that they did. And at the time, you just think, oh, like they're just listening to their, you know, parent or their father and his parents that have a bit more well to do than me. And so I'm just going to be criticized. I was criticized when I was in the marriage. So it wasn't a big thing, but he started dating my son's teacher. And that's kind of when it all went downhill. And he took them out of here, and I've never seen them again.
I mean, what has that been like for you? I remember I said the holidays is coming up, and we're putting a big emphasis on this for parents that are going to be experiencing this for the first time and might not know what they should do, and they're processing these feelings. What was that like for you on your first holiday, not having your children?
Well, I mean, it would have been Christmas, and the way that the courts work here, they kind of give you false hope, and then you go through court. And I remember that first Christmas, I went out and got all their presents and everything because the court essentially, they made you feel like, okay, you're going to go in here and it's going to be fixed, and it wasn't. It was just drug out and drug out and drug out, and so, and it's a horrible way to feel, but like, don't think too positive about anything happening because it's going to set you up for disappointment. And you just have to kind of make sure that you're patient and understand that it can happen, but it's going to take a lot longer.
Right. And you brought up a really perfect point. I can't tell you how many people have came to me and like, I've got all this evidence. I've got the perfect case. There's no way I'm not going to get the results that I'm looking for when I go in there. You can have all the evidence you
Mhm.
want. It doesn't mean a hill of beans. I mean, look at Johnny Depp. I know this was over in England, but
But
he
it's
had
the
a tape.
same.
He had a tape saying it wasn't him, it was her, and he still lost his case.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
the family
Exactly.
courts, sometimes evidence prevails, sometimes it don't. It's really according to who's sitting on that seat, that judge.
Yeah.
You know,
And I have tried and tried, and, I have jumped through hoops. I've done everything they've asked me to do just because of his accusations without evidence. But yet, any evidence that I have it wasn't, nobody cared.
right?
So we finally go to a trial in January, hoping that it won't be canceled because we're going back into lockdown now. And I don't even like, I have a lot of court appointed therapy that has gone in my favor.
Right.
And, things that like reports that definitely go in my favor, but I'm still not excited because it's just like, why? Why? Because nothing has happened.
Well, of course, this year down here, I don't know how it was up there. COVID-19 hit, and that's going to be a gift to alienators wanting to make sure
Mhm.
that their child's not going to the non-custodial parent's house. I mean, how has that been up in Canada? Have you seen COVID-19 used a lot in these custody cases?
I have following a lot of groups that are based in Canada, and like I'm in Nova Scotia, and I have a few people that I know here that are going through similar. And it's been brought up a lot, and that has stalled out on ours a lot too because my middle son, who's now 13, was going to the court appointed therapy, and then all of a sudden their dad said, nope, you're not doing that anymore because of this. And even when they opened it up again a bit, he refused. So it got drug out, another 6 months, and finally it happened. But it's, we're just going into a second wave here, so I'm really hoping that the courts don't shut down again.
We've been told that I think in January it's possible we might be shutting down for another 6 weeks. Not only is that hard on parents, I mean, it's hard on everybody. It's hard on businesses, and
Mhm.
it's unfortunate. And I've seen many cases like you can take your kids to the park, you can take them to Walmart of all places where there's probably thousands of hands that touch that buggy that you've got right now, but you can't go let them see mom or dad.
Yeah, and that was a big part in it. that we dealt with his responses to the court-appointed therapist.
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't get it, but that's, you know,
I work
where
at
we
home, you know, like I'm like the farthest. I have 2 other children that live with me full time, and the farthest they go is school. But that was an argument that I had dirty children, and I wasn't like taking responsibility for any of this. But I don't leave my house, so. But it was quite an argument about it.
I sure do hate to hear that. I mean, what are some of the things though that you have done to keep your mind off of this? The thing about alienation, it's cruel. I was talking about this the other night. I think it's very cliche for people to say, it's about the children. It's not about the parent. It's about the children. And I get that. It is. Everything we do is about the children, but it is about that parent too. And some of the outright ridiculous things that they're going through inside a family court, the money being held away. It is about them. And sometimes that can just drive us crazy. We are consumed with it. And until we get some type of answers, we know, like we was talking earlier, you might not get those immediate answers. But we drive ourselves crazy needing to do something right now. And you have to find some way to distract yourself from that and not let it eat away. It's like a cancer.
It is. It's I said, it's a parasite, and it just keeps eating and eating and eating. And then, you know, you kind of have a bit of calm, and then all of a sudden something pops up, and there it is again, eating away. And
Right.
it's frustrating.
I mean, what are some of the things that you do to, you know, just
I work full time. Like my family doctor had said, you can drop down to part time. We'll support you in that. And I said, no, because you know it's a really good distraction to have that. You know, I have 2 younger children from my second marriage, and they're here, and they are so fun, and they're so busy, and they distract me a lot, especially at Christmas because they're just so excited. They're only little,
right?
and you know, like we're just busy. We have a certain little group of friends that are always around, and we try to stay as busy because it affects my partner as much as me too, because he's been around since they were little, and he was a big part of their life as well.
Right. And that's the part of alienation a lot of people don't see. It don't just happen to the parents, it's the grandparents, it's the aunts, it's the uncles, the cousins.
My poor parents, you know, like my mom is she's having a visit. My grandmother, she's 90. She's just devastated. My father passed away in December, and the kids don't even know.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
I hate to hear that. I know what that's like. You know, my dad passed away, it'd be 8 years ago in January. He never got to see his youngest granddaughter, and it might be a good thing because I tell you, if he was alive right now, his heart would be broken.
Yeah, I feel the same. If he wasn't so sick and he was here, I think that he'd be on a rampage of anger, because it's just like and it's devastating. Like my stepdad, he is, you know, one of those people that you could only describe as a saint. I've never even seen this man mad until it comes to this stuff. And I just it's heartbreaking for me to see people that I care about be so angry because of something that some person has done to us.
Right.
Yeah, like my little kids, my little tiny guys, they're only 6 and 4. They don't remember their brothers really. They can pick them out of a picture, but they don't really remember them. And it's devastating. Like they're growing up without their brothers.
That's why, you know, younger kids, it's so easy to alienate because their memories are fragile, and then you can tell them anything you want to. You know,
Yeah.
they're going to listen to their parent.
Oh, exactly. One of the reports that I had, my ex had he was then 14-year-old write him a list of reasons why he hates me. And it's insane, because when you read it, it just breaks your heart even more, because you know that it's abuse and being driven into him, because none of it's true. And like, it's, you know, anybody that knows me personally knows that's so out of character to describe as that. But like, I mean, he was a child, and I find him a very immature child, and he always was. So it's very easy to manipulate him.
Right.
Very easy. Very easy. And it's a sin. And I don't even know about the other 2, although my now 13-year-old has told the therapist that he really wants to come home and wants to come to his mom.
Right. Well, Caitlyn, I appreciate you so much for coming here and talking a little bit about this. It's not so easy to be vulnerable and talk about our cases. Any of the people that's called in today, and I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a happy holiday. If you could say anything out there to a parent that's going through this right now, what kind of encouragement could you provide to them?
Just don't feel like you have to give up. Like, don't, and I hate using the word win, but don't let them win, especially over yourself and your emotions, because, like, one day it might not be anytime soon, but the kids are going to come to you, and you don't want them to think that you gave up. Like, that's why I've kept going. And, like, just, show them how much you love them, even if they don't. Like, email them, even if you're blocked, keep emailing them, because you're going to be able to show that to them one day.
I appreciate you for that, and I hope you have a good holiday, and
You
make sure to
too.
stay in touch with us.
I will, and I'll cook you guys an American turkey this weekend too.
All
So
right, sounds good.
Any excuse for a turkey.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I love some turkey. All right, y'all have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys, welcome back to Dad Talk. We took a little break. We are back now. I have another father on the phone who is no stranger to not being able to see his kids on Thanksgiving. I think it happened to him last year and this year. Robert, you there?
Yes. How's everybody doing?
Going all right, man. And I know good bit of people know about your story now. I think this is the #1 story that broke on Dad Talk. Got around 180,000 views. It's been shared many times. It's a story that's resonated with many. I know that you've been going through this a long time, but it was last year, I believe, right at Thanksgiving when it was your time to get your children.
Oh, yes. Showed up at the school, and kids weren't there and didn't know what was going on. And, teachers didn't know, and got a email from opposing counsel saying that, they were, seeking a protective order, restraining order. And the crazy part is I couldn't get to the court fast enough because they knew what they were doing. And, there went the holiday.
What was that like for you, man? I mean, you do better than a lot. I know. I mean, these people get angry. They're righteously angry for not being able to see their kids. I know that's a point in time you probably ready to cuss somebody out and get some answers. But I mean, what was that like for you mentally, and how did you keep yourself calm during that period in time?
I don't think anybody can really just, brush it off, because it's not good. You invite all your relatives over, and you make plans. I mean, it's Thanksgiving, and I mean, it's a tactic that people use. All these parents that are going through it, sorry you're going through it. It's super hard, but in the end, you just have to realize that there's nothing that you did. It's not the kid's fault. It's the other parent. They can choose to go and get a protective order, restraining order, no matter what's going on. The sad part is you always get the kids back, and you can never get Thanksgiving back or those memories back. No matter if somebody does award you, your time back, you also lost the memory of a holiday.
That's right. I was speaking about that the other night. This life, this whole thing, it's a facade. It's almost like a movie scene. We only got a limited amount of time on this earth, and the things that matter the most are your family and your friends, the ones that you care about. I mean, even the show, anything else that we do, that's going to pass. It'll be nothing more than a memory. And you're absolutely right. That is the most precious thing that you're never going to get back, is that time. That's something money can't buy. There's nothing you can do about it. And
you never get those memories back. Even Christmases or birthdays, the kids' first steps. For all these parents that are missing out on, newly divorced or whatever their issues are, they're going to miss their first teeth missing, their first words, all the stuff that is important to a parent. And
right.
and the monuments, right? Those are those monuments. So
Yeah, man. What have you done? I know me and you are really close, and so I know a lot about you, but I'd like to to explain a little bit to some of the listeners that might be going through this for the first time, or maybe it's been a few years, but it's still befuddling them and, you know, just as painful as it was the first time they was going through it. What are some of the things that you've done to kind of keep yourself calm, or to make sure, you know, later on, hey, my kids, even though they might not have seen me on Thanksgiving, I know they're being told this story, but I'm going to make sure I chronicle this, so that way one day when they come and they ask, this is what I got, to let them know daddy was trying, daddy, you know.
Yeah. So a couple of things. You know, I would say keep a journal. I'm not a big writer, but I know some people are. And if you can write your feelings rather than say them, you know, maybe you can show them the journal. You know, here's, you know, Christmas that I had without you. I was thinking about you. You know, I had the Christmas tree for you, blah, blah, blah. I always thought, and I just never got around to it, is just creating another Facebook of, you know, and like in their name. And of course, your information, because you can't just open an account and some 2-year-old's, you know, birthday, whatever. But, and then every time you think about them, go in there and post it. Or when you're, you know, if the child was, I don't know, 10 years old by the time, you know, they got taken away or whatever, then, you know, go in there and put pictures, you know, hey, I was thinking about you that time we went swimming or at the lake or whatever. That way they can see that, you know, when you do get them back, or they do age out and the alienating parent can't, you know, I don't know, stop them from seeing you anymore, 18, somewhere around there. You know, you can show them that, you know, that you were thinking about them, that it did make a difference, and you were always there. Another way that I got kind of out of being, you know, just always thinking about it is I would have family or friends over all the time. I think they, you know, if you should always surround yourself with family and friends, a support group, no matter what, but especially going through something like this. Um, Find a hobby. I always cook for some reason. I just, anytime I'm not feeling like 100%, I'll go in the kitchen and just start cooking. Hungry or not, I'll just go in there and cook. So that's something that I do. But, you know, everybody has to find their own thing.
There's something about cooking, man. I'm actually doing that right now in the rain, smoking a turkey. But you know, it's great advice. You got to have something that can get your mind off of this, because consuming yourself with this 24/7, and it's a topic, it's a thing that we go through, that it's easy for that to happen. It's easy to let this consume your soul.
Yes.
You got to find something constructive. Find people that you can reach out to. Find support groups and different stuff. I would be very cautious. Sometimes you're broke or hurt other people. So make sure that you've got people that are giving you inspiring messages and not feeding into that anger and throwing fuel on the fire.
Correct. And your significant other, whoever you're with, your, you know, if you're remarried, you have a girlfriend, live in, whatever it is, know that she's going through this with you also. Even though it's not her children or his children, they are going through this also. And even though it's not their kids, you have to realize that they're living this with you. So give them some respect, give them, you know, some leeway too when they're a little bit snippy, because you're so involved with it that you don't realize what they're going through. So just know that they're going through it also.
And that's important, because there are partners out there. There is people in this life that you can connect with that are going to love you for you, that are not going to put you through those situations. I think many times after we start experiencing parental alienation, we go through these bad divorces, we think every woman's going to be that way, every guy's going to be that way, and we start kind of just distancing ourselves. But that can be one of the best things for you. You just got to make sure you choose wisely and be a little bit more careful than you was the first time. I mean, I'm guilty of that, man. I went, and I'm a person that don't like to be alone. I would jump right back in without having my guard up or realizing what's going on. But
yeah, you have to realize, you have to be conscious that you are not making the same mistake, and that you're not just putting somebody to fill a hole. You got to be if you're going to go through this and you want to be there for your kid, then you got to make yourself whole and good. So, take some parenting classes. That's the other thing I did. So without being court ordered, you could actually go sign up for parenting classes and that's what I did, just to make sure I was still being, like, I wanted to make sure I was a good parent. I thought I was, but sometimes you can't see your own reflection. So I took probably several parenting classes, and the neat thing is it actually taught me different things. So that kept my mind off of stuff. That kept me going, like, because I wanted to be a good parent for when they came back, or I got them back, or going through this. So the other thing, if you have other kids and you're going through this, know that they're going through it with you also, but you have a choice also. You're not just fighting for one kid. There's other kids in your home. Pay attention to them. Love them. Take time with them.
That's right, man. I've spoken to it about, with many of the callers that have been on here today, and I think it's so important, and you can speak to this definitely. When we start going through these issues, we want solutions. We want them right now. And I think that's a part of where we get so gaslit in our own mind and consumed by it that we can't stop and take a break or anything. But realizing that these things can take time. Sometimes it can take a long time. Robert, how long have you been fighting in this system?
I've been doing this 11 years now.
11 years.
And hopefully it's almost over. Prepping for final trial now. 2 weeks of trial, not just a hearing. She wanted, a jury 2 weeks. So it's a lot of prepping. And again, you just have to remove yourself from that, your mind, and just be clear. And, the parents that are missing out on their kids for Thanksgiving, just give thanks that you do have kids and you will see them. And even though I've been going through this for 11 years, I'm super optimistic about spending time with my children and, what will come out of it after everything settles.
Yeah, man. They say that patience is a virtue in your case, and I think in many people's cases, that's definitely true, because it's had to take a lot of patience over 11 years of allegations, holidays being messed with, memories being,
Yeah, I don't know. Still need to think of a name, but yeah, these alienators and these parents that do this, they hijack you right before the holidays. I mean, I'm gonna start calling it hijacking holidays or something. I don't know.
I think I've got an idea. You know how people call Christmas Xmas?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll just spell it with X-E-X,
Mm-hmm.
Xmas. It's coming because your ex is
Yeah,
going to make sure you don't get it.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Maybe we can coin that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all too common. Started getting the calls last night from people that were going through it, and I was hoping not to get those as many this year.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people are suffering in silence. I'm sure COVID-19 has become one of the main excuses.
Yep.
And
they throw that in there too. Kids sick, can't bring them over. I don't want to get you sick. Blah blah blah. So mine tried that. Like I said, just take a thermometer, one that swipes their head, and just say, okay, you know what? They got a fever, bring them. And if, swipe their head. If they have a fever, just let them go back with the mom or dad or whoever. But if they don't, I just don't mind getting in the car.
Right. So, man, dude, you've dropped a lot of nuggets of gold, and I know I've somewhat already asked this question, but I want to ask it one more time before I let you go. And I want to say thank you for coming on here and spending your time and letting somebody hear about your situation, some of the things that you can offer them. But for a parent that's going through this Thanksgiving, they're not being able to see their children, COVID-19 happened, temporary restraining order, whatever it might be, whatever the situation is. What's some advice that you can give to them right now?
Don't give up. It's very easy to give up. And don't think about it that it doesn't go or has gone through my head 100 times a day.
Yeah.
They will know that you're fighting for them. So don't give up, and it'll all be worth it in the end. Even if they have, well, I mean, without going through another long story, but yeah, just don't give up. I mean, those kids need you, and as long as you're there fighting for them, they know, and they will know. And I've been one of the lucky ones that I've had supervised visits and everything else, and they've hijacked my holidays and whatever else. But in the end, they have to keep giving them back. This doesn't last forever. It's not a forever thing. And as long as you keep fighting, you will always get them back. And when they turn 18, you'll have them back even more then. But don't give up.
Reminds me of one of my favorite songs. It just started pouring raining down here. Guns N' Roses said, nothing lasts forever in the cold November rain.
There you go.
Yeah. So it won't.
Nothing lasts forever.
It doesn't. And, not even this life, it doesn't. But sometimes it takes a little time for your kids to wake up and for these things to fall into place. But you will learn lessons from it. It will make you a stronger person. And you know what? Once your kids wake up to it without you having to wake them up from it, it's not going to work so easy anymore.
Nope.
They're going to be a little bit more mindful.
Yep. The alienation will try to continue, but, I've been very fortunate in this that, there's been therapists involved since they were 1 and 3. And, that probably stopped some of the alienation because she knew someone was watching this whole time.
Yeah.
And it got bad. So, I can imagine how my children would have got through this had we not had so many people in place, because she couldn't probably have been as bad as she would have been had they not been here. So,
Right.
Yeah, so the people that are going through this, again, man, I'm so sorry you're going through this. And like I said, just have hope that they will have to give them back.
Right. Well, brother, I thank you again so much for your time. Before you get off of here, I know I got to ask you one more thing. I know you mentioned you like cooking. Tomorrow is a big day for family and food. What is it that you are cooking for Thanksgiving this year?
This year, I have no clue. We're
You're gonna stuff the turkey with some COVID-19?
Yeah. We're gonna go to my wife's relatives this year. We don't have any of the kids this year. They're with mom this year, so we decided to surround ourselves with a lot of family. And we're, like I said, I'm gonna take my own advice, surround myself with a lot of family, and as usual, I'll just get there and start cooking something.
Right.
So.
And there you go, brother. Well, hey, man, happy holidays to you and your family, and make sure you tell them I said hey.
All right. Thanks. You too.
All right, bud. Bye. Well, guys, that's it. Thank you for tuning in to Dad Talk today, Thanksgiving 2020. I've been talking to a few different people. It looks like we might have a marathon going on for Christmas as well. I hope you had a good day today. I hope none of this stuff even pertains to you. I hope this show doesn't even make sense to you. But for those of you that it does, I hope that you found some peace and comfort inside of it with it being here. I love each and every single one of you guys. You are important. You make a difference. You might not be given a chance right now, but you will get it. You will get it. Kids are smart. They're resilient. They'll figure it out. And once they do, those little tricks, those little weapons that these custodial parents use, it's not going to work anymore. So guys, just stick in there, please. Guys, if you'd like to support what we're doing over here, please go to patreon.com/dadtalktoday. You can also go on the wall at Dad Talk. We have started a fundraiser to make sure this show can stay on the air. People don't see what we're doing here on the screen is the easy part. What's going on behind the scenes, the parents calling us with their stories, the people wanting to commit suicide, the people getting locked up for false allegations, the people whose kids are dying. We talk to them day in and day out. And that is the heart of what's going on over here at the podcast. And we need to make sure that we keep these resources here. The fact is, we're up against a multi-billion-dollar industry that does not want us to have voices. They don't want you to have voices. And they want to make sure that your kids are not heard. And we need help fighting against that. Without you, this is not going to happen. Without you, things like this will go away. The support group, the live support chats, the podcast with great attorneys coming on here and answering legal questions and giving you, some friendly advice. All these things that we have built, they're very important. We want you to utilize them, but please, at the same time, we need your support. Get out there, enjoy the rest of your day, And if there's anything we can do, please let us know. I hope you know how much you mean to us. I hope you know how much you mean to your kids. You might not think they do. They might not even call you by your name. They might not call you at all. You're still in their heart. I promise you, you are still in their heart. So give us a little bit, and we will see you later on this week. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are fighting for the rights of parents worldwide. If you want to help support our podcast and for us to continue this mission, please join us at patreon.com/dadtalktoday. You will find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, CloutHub, Parler, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, the podcast app, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're a little bit of everywhere. And guys, every time you like and subscribe, you help us continue this mission. Thank you, and we will see you